Miami Historic and Environmental Preservation Board pursuant to Section 23-6.24 of the City Code of Ordinances, approving or denying an application for a special certificate of appropriateness for the painting of murals on a non-contributing property located at approximately 6789 Biscayne Boulevard, Miami, Florida 33138, within the Miami Modern Biscayne Boulevard Historic District, further incorporating the findings in the staff analysis attached herein as Exhibit A.
And the applicant is still present.
Good evening, all.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Joey Gancel. I'm the CEO and president of La Placita. The address is 6789 Biscayne Boulevard.
And what's your address?
I'm sorry?
What is your address?
What is mine?
Address.
Address, okay, 1869 Northwest South River Drive, Unit 1805, Miami.
That's good. All right, then we'll start with the staff report, and then it'll be your turn.
Pursuant to Section 23-6.2b4 of the City Code of Ordinances as amended, the applicant is requesting an after-the-fact special certificate of appropriateness to allow for the painting of murals on a parcel zone T50 Urban Transect Zone and T3L Suburban Transect Zone. The subject property is a non-contributing structure located within the South Elmira subdivision and the Upper East Side Met area. The site is located in the southeast corner of Biscayne Boulevard and northeast 68th Street. On June 6, 2006, the Historic and Environmental Preservation Board, pursuant to Ordinance Number HEP-2006-59, designated the subject property located at 6789 Biscayne Boulevard as part of the Malmo Bible Historic District. On December 27, 2018, the Preservation Office received several emails and telephone calls informing staff that a mural depicting the Puerto Rican flag was being painted on the north and west elevations of the three-storey structure located on the southeast corner of Biscayne Boulevard and northeast 68th Street. A certificate of appropriateness had not been issued for these alterations. A code compliance officer informed the applicant that a COA was required for painting and a violation for not having a COA was issued. However, the work continued and the mural, which includes the artist's signature, was completed. It was also brought to the attention of staff that the smaller mural had been painted on the east elevation. Although this mural is to the rear of the building, it is visible from the right of way. Section 23-6.2H1 of the City of Miami Code of Ordinances states, generally for applications relating to alterations or new construction as required in subsection A, the proposed work shall not adversely affect the historic, architectural or aesthetic character of the subject structure or the relationship and congruity between the subject structure and its neighbouring structures and surroundings, including but not limited to form, spacing, height, yards, materials, colour or rhythm and pattern of window and door openings and building facades. Nor shall the proposed work adversely affect the special character or special historic architectural or aesthetic interest or value of the overall historic site, historic district or multiple property designation. Except where special standards and guidelines have been specified in the designation of a particular historic resource, historic district or multiple property designation, or where the board has subsequently adopted additional standards and guidelines for a particular designated historic resource, historic district or multiple property designation, decisions relating to alterations or new construction shall be guided by the US Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic structures. Special standards and guidelines adopted in the City of Miami are: number 1, the Historic Design Guidelines, which state artistic murals or patterns are not allowed and require HEP approval. Exterior paint colours should highlight the architectural features on a structure but not detract from them. Appropriate paint colours shall be chosen for a facade based on its architectural style and historic context. A successful paint scheme enhances the look of a structure, however, when inappropriate colours are applied, it can be detrimental to the architecture. It also states dark colours and bright hues are not allowed in structures. The second document is the MIMO Biscayne Boulevard Historic District Design Guidelines that include a selection of 44 suggested colour palettes approved by the HEP on March 2nd, 2009 to provide possible colour combinations that would be appropriate for the Nanaimo Bible Historic Districts. The murals do not comply with the above, as firstly, no HEP approval for the artistic murals or patterns has been obtained, as the work was undertaken without the submission of a COA application. Secondly, the paint colours and patterns, especially on the west and east facades, do not highlight the architectural features but actually obscure and detract from them. Thirdly, the colours chosen for the murals are not consistent with the prevailing paint schemes within the historic district, as they are not from the pre-approved colour palette. The application has not demonstrated compliance with Chapter 23 entitled Historic Preservation of the City of Miami Code of Ordinances and the Secretary of the Interior's Standards. Staff finds the request does not comply with all applicable criteria and finds that the request for an after-the-fact special COA for the painting of murals does adversely affect the historic, architectural and aesthetic character of the district. Pursuant to Section 23-6.2b4 of the City of Miami Code of Ordinances as amended, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards, Preservation Office recommends denial of the after-the-fact special certificate of appropriateness. If the application is denied, the board may consider making a recommendation that the building be painted in a paint scheme chosen from the pre-approved colour palette, or the applicant, while working with staff and the Nanaimo Biscayne Association, may consider painting the building white and installing neon artwork depicting the Puerto Rican flag.
Your turn.
Thank you very much. I will be as brief as I can. I want to, first of all, thank you all for your service. Being myself a former designated officer by an elected governor of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, I know that being late at night, outside of families and all that, is a great sacrifice. I want to thank Mr. Warren Adams for all the process and how he guided us through getting the application done for this moment. So we're going to be very punctual in terms of who we are, why we're here, why we painted the building, how we did it, and which materials, even where we placed that flag. First of all, we are Foodcom Hospitality Group, and it was a group created in 2017 by these two founders of the Potbelly Sushi, hereby with us tonight. That business established in 2010, where Chef Jose Mendy and Chef Sergio Navarro, both of them are partners, and Chef Mendy is a 5-time James Beard nominee and 2-time Cochon 555 champion. Today, the group oversees over 11 operations, including Polanco, Mexico, Casa de Campo in Dominican Republic, and the other operations here in Florida. The newest concept, La Placita, an homage to the iconic Plaza del Mercado Santurce in Puerto Rico, serving Mendy's approach to down-home classics. Why we painted the building? We have a cardboard that, inspired by fond memories of Puerto Rico, La Placita in Miami was developed to replicate the sentiment of La Placita in Puerto Rico. We aim to create a place of pride for local community and the hub of Puerto Rican cuisine in Miami. The flag is intended to represent the authenticity of the restaurants in Miami premier Puerto Rican concept, especially after the disastrous effects of Hurricane Maria on the island of Puerto Rico, which reinforce our commitment to provide a place to encounter, particularly for the displaced diaspora of Puerto Rican community located in Florida. How we did it, despite of the comments outside and all the media and bad publicity, we gotta say that we got a special permit issued by the city. And this permit was very clear when it comes to showing that we were with the intention of painting an artistic mural on the premises. So we didn't apply for an antenna permit or for anything else. We were clear about it, but unfortunately, in the process, no one in the city asked for a rendering, no one in the city conditioned such permit, no one in the city asked for nothing else. So we got that permit, and thanks to that permit, we were allowed to continue with the project without making something unlawful. So we were also supported by a professional painting company to prepare the building, and we even included the city and the insurance policies having the city as a beneficiary. So we're very strict about everything that we did, so we did it on by the rules. And who did it now? Who did it? Made it Mr. Hector Collazo, a renewed Puerto Rican artist known for his 78 Pueblos y una bandera, o 78 pueblos y una bandera, art initiative that has so far printed 56 flags across counties throughout Puerto Rico. Now, the initiative called Plantando Bandera, intended to bring the pride to its residents and unify the community, received praise and recognition from the Puerto Rican House of Representatives on January 9th, 2019. What materials we use? We used industrial grade paint as presented as part of the application, and we did it on a non-historical building constructed in 2009 that fully complied with the construction requirements for the district, the Balance Building. We have the 10-year challenge, 2009 and 2019. So that's even the same that you have on the slide. Now this is the fun part. What we didn't know. We could never imagine that the way the community has embraced the art, making it a local attraction. On a daily basis, we see people taking pictures and selfies, such as this one over here, and we feel the interest of this mural has also benefit the Mimo neighborhood as a whole, giving locals an energized venue, contributing to the local economy and providing visitors a new reason to include Mimo District into their travel plans. We're confident that we're adding value to the area and surrounding properties by bringing a steady stream of patrons with spending power, helping combat the homeless and criminal activity, perception that has been plugged through the area since the 80s. Now, the purpose of our presentation is to not only set the record on from our perspective, but to help you make an informed decision. So we have 3 areas that we want to present as defenses for you to consider our application favorably. Number 1, the historical. Miami Modernist Architecture, or MIMO, is a regional style of architecture that developed in South Florida during the post-war period. This style was intentionally recognized as a regionalist response to the international style. It can be seen in most of the larger Miami and Miami Beach resorts built after the Great Depression. Puerto Rico is part of the history of the United States since 1898, being a U.S. territory since then, and granted by the citizenship of the United States in 1917. Puerto Ricans, as myself, actively, well, not as myself, but us Puerto Ricans actively fought as part of the U.S. military during the World War II. The 65th Infantry Regiment, nicknamed the Borinqueniers, from the original Taino name of the island, Borinquen, is a Puerto Rican regiment of the United States Army. The regiment motto is Honor et Fidelitas, Latin for honor and fidelity, participated in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and is what is known in the United States as the War of Terror. On April 13, 2016, the 65th Infantry was awarded to the Congressional Gold Medal. Several Purple Hearts were handed posthumously to members of the 65th Regiment. So you have that as history to consider our application. On the legal side, we have addressed a really interesting side, so you can also take a look at it. It's the Visual Artist Rights Act of 1990, VARA. It is part of the U.S. Code and is a law granting certain rights to artists. VARA was the first federal copyright legislation to grant protection to motor rights. VARA exclusively grants authors of works that fall under the protection of Act to the following rights: right to claim on authorship, right to prevent and use one's name, an art or work the author that did not create, right to prevent use on one's name or any work that has been distorted, mutilated, or modified in a way that will be prejudicial to the author's honor or reputation, rights to prevent distortion, mutilation, or modification that will prejudice the author's honor or reputation. Additionally, authors of works of recognized stature may prohibit intentional or grossly negligent destruction of work. VARA provides its protection only to paintings, drawings, prints, sculptures, still photographic images produced for exhibition only and existing in single copies or in limited editions of 200 or fewer copies, signed and numbered by the artist. The requirements for protection do not implicate aesthetic taste or value. We should mention that this piece of art, painted by Hector Collazo, was signed as part of his inventory. Now we go to the economic development aspect, our third and last aspect. La Placita is a successful business, and its mural certainly adds color and vibrancy to the area amongst other derelict and dilapidated structures. In this cardboard, we can show that we are located on 789 Boulevard, and across us and in front of us we have closed down buildings and closed out businesses. So this is a really view, an actual view of what is happening in the district, where all these closed out businesses and buildings are really a concern for safety, for economic development, investment, and job creation. So going back into history, and we can share that with you if you want, Balance Restaurant has been operating since 2009, when the building was fully constructed. The sales began to decline since 2014, and the business and its surroundings area began to close down. From 2014 to 2018, Balance Restaurant lost half of its sales, and closing Balance Restaurant could cost 35 employees to lose their jobs, yet adding one more closed business to the area. Historically speaking, small businesses around Balance didn't last more than 3 years. And it's important to mention that Balance restaurants are successful and well respected in their other locations on Lincoln Road and Brickell. So the problem was the boulevard. The actual situation. Those 7 buildings closed down, and that's like our view, and those are our neighbors. Despite that fact, the group has invested $500,000 in La Placita restaurant. We have created more than 50 jobs, and this month's taxes around $30,000 or January taxes. So we are forecasting more than $300,000 a year on taxes. So what we have here to present, dear board, is that this application goes far and beyond of only a painting. It is an artist's job performed by a known artist. It was considered a piece of an inventory of the same art. We believe it's protected under VARA. It has become a tourist attraction and added more vibrance to the area, which is really needed because of those closed businesses around us. It has become part of the investment in the community. The traffic, the new people, how other entrepreneurs around the area that are really represented here and that maybe could speak for themselves, they have been really appreciative of the movement of generating more traffic and more people going through the area in order to conduct business. So we are hereby respectfully presenting to you that maintaining that painting, that piece of art, is going to be beneficial for the community, for the business, and for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Please come forward, give your name and address for the record. And before you start, I may have to interrupt you in about 4 minutes, because we may have to change the tape. So if I interrupt you, that's fine.
Good evening, my name is Shane Graver. I'm president of the abutting neighborhood Bayside Historic District Bayside Residents Association, which includes the 500 residents just to the east of the subject property. I'm the former president and board member of the Maimo Biscayne Association. And ironically, my offices for Graver Realty Group are located in the very same building that we're discussing on the south side. On behalf of the Bayside Residents Association, we request denial and immediate removal of this mural. Murals, wall art, graffiti art, and logo architecture are not permitted by law in the Maimo Biscayne Historic District, regardless of the fame or notoriety of the creator. Whereas Wynwood specifically created its identity as the highest concentration of publicly displayed graffiti art and murals would not be allowed in places like Coral Gables, or the Art Deco Historic District of South Beach, and they're not allowed in MIMO either. Whether or not this is a contributing or non-contributing structure is immaterial. That's a red herring, it's a distraction. The laws, rules, and regulations were designed to create compatibility and to create a cohesive continuity and definition to the MIMO community. MIMO has a unique look and feel, historic to Miami, which has few historic neighborhoods as it is. Any argument that this building is non-contributing and therefore exempt from the law is incorrect and misses the point of historic districts. Let me provide some background to this building. It was built in 2009, I know because I was president of the neighborhood, and I worked with the former owner, the late Prady Bellin. Prady and his architect, who's an Upper East Side MIMO resident, Ilya Moskrop, went through painstaking design after design after design. It took them years to get the design that would be approved within the MIMO district. I repeat, years, just to build the building, because they had to find specific era-compatible details, including the eyebrows, the curvilinear form, the rhythm and pattern, the colors, the number of colors, the simplicity of the facade, and they had to keep simplifying it, simplifying it, simplifying it, from the facade to the colors to the amount of colors. Trust me, they were not happy. They were not happy with me and a lot of the neighbors, but it got built. The point is, it had to fit in with the surrounding context of the historic buildings in the MIMO district. Recently, this board denied another building at 6901 Biscayne to place a much simpler mural on its facade. It was very subtle, yet it was still rejected. The MIMO and Bayside Residents Association stood by the board in opposition to that. Further, the city has recently protected the design integrity of MIMO by requiring numerous buildings to remove their illegal murals. This is no special exception. As for the mural on this building, the proprietor, one of the partners of the business, the applicant, along with the landlord, actually came into my office a week before putting the mural up to show me what they were planning on doing. And I said, "Are you kidding me? Did you get your COA? I don't remember there being a HEP board meeting on this. You may not, you cannot do that." They were already in the process of painting the building, and I said, "Make sure you get your COA or there's going to be a lot of trouble, trust me." I told them point blank, it's not allowed. This was disregarded. Nonetheless, a week later, I get back from my holiday trip, and the phone's ringing off the hook, and neighbors are freaking out because they're painting the building. The city's on site, code compliance, cites them immediately. They continue to defy the city and to defy the residents of the neighborhood. When we talk about the applicant stating they had a permit, they had a special event permit from the police. You don't go to the police to get a paint permit in a historic district, and I think that that's common knowledge, and it was already explained to them. None of us are above the law.
And you're wrapping up?
Excuse me?
And you are wrapping up?
I am wrapping up. So the applicant, the good news is they have the opportunity to create a sign or color program that is compliant with the MIMO district. Any good business will flourish if it offers good service, good food in this case, and good service. The community has repeatedly asked for the applicant to work with the MIMO and the Bayside community. In fact, the Vagabond Group, Jane up the street, we know what she went through. Her team came up with a design, which I'll share with the board, that would be compliant. And I just want to share this. We request that you deny this application. It's unfair to the process. It's inconsistent with the district. And we appreciate your time. I'll pass this out to everybody.
And we'll pause here while we change the...
Sheldon Klein, 770 Northeast 69th Street. About 4 or 5 years ago, I came into the area and I bought my first property on 82nd Street. It was a crack house. It housed prostitution. I put $500,000 into it and renovated it, and it became the Zen Motel Residence, which is a multifamily structure. I then bought another one on 515 Northeast 61st Street. It was full of crack addicts and prostitutes. I put $400,000 into that. It's now the Zen Motel Inn, and that's a transient facility. I then went to 7126 Biscayne Boulevard, the Mimo Hotel, which was a crack house, which was full of prostitution, etc. I put in hundreds of thousands of dollars into that and opened up the Zen Motel Mimo. I did experience every step of the way, of course. My 61st Street and the 7126 are historic properties. And I went through the process, which was painstaking every step of the way. I'm still attempting to get certain things done at the 7126 Biscayne property. I've certainly helped try to revitalize the area. When I saw the La Placita opening up, and I saw the flag going up, and I saw the excitement on the area, and I said, wow, fantastic, it's about time, because all that Biscayne Boulevard has become is just one strip of empty stores. They continue to build empty stores. And the new stores that they're building have no historic integrity whatsoever. Where does it doesn't blend with any of the historic. And it's hard to comprehend, so that when you get something like these guys are doing, and they bring something as great as they've done into the area, and the excitement, it's great for the business, it's great for my business, it's great for the existing businesses. So I totally support what they're doing, and I hope that they can continue in business, and I hope that they can continue bringing that excitement to the area. When our ratings, if you take a look at our ratings are fantastic, but one part of our rating is bad, and it's location. Because when the people are coming to my hotel and they're walking out on the street, they don't know where they are. There's nothing there. So when I'm now telling them to go down to La Placita, and they love it. But once they're there, where do they go? Across the street. It's under renovation for 5 years. A hotel that's under renovation for 5 years because they can't get all of their permits. You've got empty stores to the right, empty stores to the left, and here they're bringing vibrancy to the area. Okay, and the flag is fantastic. It's fantastic, and they're going to show you something that somebody wrote about that flag, and what they and a very, very negative statement, which was a very hurtful statement. But I don't know what else I can tell you guys, but I totally support what they're doing, and they bring a lot of life and a lot of vibrancy to the area, a well-needed vibrancy and life to the area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Sarah Len Sharp, and I live at 636 Northeast 70th Street. I'm the vice president. I'm tired. I'm the vice president of Mimo Biscayne Association. I'm a member of the board of the Bayside Residents Association, and I'm also a retired appellate attorney. And I saw in some of the PR that there might be a First Amendment issue in terms of regulating the mural. I thought that it would be helpful for all of us if I looked into that. As you know, it's perfectly appropriate for a government to regulate aesthetics as long as it's content neutral. And murals are interesting. They're a little more subtle in terms of content than other forms of art. There are very few cases about this, but they talk about the fact that content in a mural isn't just the subject, it's the location, it's the size, and the relation to the viewer. So it's safer when you're looking at murals to either say no to all murals, the way that Mimo's been asking to do, or you go into the slippery slope of having to figure out what's appropriate in a mural, and then you get into the content, and then you risk a First Amendment violation. So the safest thing is to either say no or yes, and then have a lot of latitude when you say yes. Mr. Adams mentioned color. I really hope that color is not a factor when you decide whether or not to approve this mural, because color is content when it comes to a mural. And paint colors shouldn't have any shouldn't be a factor when you're deciding whether or not to approve a piece of art. The gentleman mentioned VARA. VARA is an interesting law. It basically brings to the United States the European concept of paternal rights to art, which is that you can't degrade somebody's art, you can't be derivative, you can't damage it without somehow bringing their reputation into disrepute. There's a case in New York, I'll be fast, there's a case in New York about Vara in which artists were awarded a huge amount of money because they had been solicited to display their graffiti art. The owners had made money from that, and then when they had changed their minds, they covered the art, but not adequately. They put on one coat of paint, and so you could see the art still, and that was considered bringing it into disrepute. So we're saying completely cover this mural, paint it white, and let them do whatever they want to promote the business, especially in neon. Just let it be consistent with the boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. First, I would like to thank you guys for for being here. It's been a long day, and thank you for having the opportunity to express how we feel and the challenge that we have, the daily challenge that we have, not only to keep the business alive, but the constant attacks that we receive from I couldn't say it's a community because it's not everyone. Most of them are lovely people that give us a strength to keep on investing in the area, to keep on promoting and bringing good things to the area. I would also like to say that for 1 second I would
I'm sorry, you need to say your name and address for the record, and also note, we've already had the presentation, so all speakers are public and limited to 2 minutes.
My name is Maximo Silva. My address is 1030 Northeast 83rd, Miami, Florida 33138. Basically, I would like to say for 1 second to forget about the colors of the art that we have in the building. It's, the conversation is being taken out of context, talking about a Puerto Rican flag, and basically what we intended to do here is to bring what it was in the area already, from this beautiful mid-century architecture to the way that they look, to accentuate it with the neons. I'm pretty sure that when they started with the neons back in 1954, it wasn't easy for them, and not everybody approved them right out of the bat. But it was proved through the years that it was marking an era, and it was marking a district. And later on, everybody started taking credit for the MIMO and MIMO, but all this movement begins by real visionaries that saw the opportunity in a beautiful area to build beautiful pieces of architecture and then bring a neon to accentuate them. So this is exactly what we're trying to do here. We've been in Miami for over a decade. We love this city. We love this town. We love what we do. And the only thing that we want is just to bring something to the area that will add and it will not take from. Because average, it would be the easiest thing for us to do. But we tried to do something that was impressive, something that people would look and feel themselves whether identified or in peace with it. I don't think the flag itself brings any heat to the area. I think the heat in the area exists and exists for a long time. Ever since we moved in the area, we started going after the permit. And this goes from the last days of October. We're the city. Our expediter has been there. He couldn't get a straight answer from the city at all about what was needed and what wasn't needed. So the last thing that we could ask for was a permit that we obtained from the city of Miami through the police department. It's not a permit given by the police department. It's given by the city of Miami. And they knew exactly what we were doing. So once we started painting the building, what we experienced, it's absolutely bad and wrong. We have people getting in our face, not only in our face, but getting in the police face, characters like this neighbor right here saying that she will much rather see prostitution, drug dealing, and hookers on Biscayne Boulevard. That would have been a better idea. We don't know this person. We never seen this person before. This is a person that the moment that we start working in the location, she approaches and with the tone of intimidating, yelling, saying all kind of crazy things that we consider out of the context. And we don't deserve that, especially when what we're doing is trying to run a business. So the consideration that we ask for you is to look at this as the future and the preservation should be on the morals of what Miami was built, which is an iconic city by visionaries. And if there's any comments that you might have to the piece, they're always welcome. But please, let's look at this in the way that it should be looked at, which is, you know, a group of entrepreneur, talented, successful, proven people that love this town, that have done a lot for the community. I mean, Chef Mendine, it's literally, if it's not every month, at an event out there in the community. From Taste of the Nation, Not Kids with Hunger, I mean, you name it. So we're not here to milk the flag. We're here to tell you that we're a serious group of restaurateurs, and we love what we do, and we love the city. And if it's anything else that we should have done going through the process, we would have done it. Needless to mention that there was never an idea of shake the tree in this way or use the flag for anything else. So I thank you for your time, and thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Eileen Matari, 505 Northeast 76th Street. I live in historic Palm Grove, which is on the west side of the boulevard. I found out about this. I received phone calls and messages asking me what I thought about the building with the big flag on it. I didn't really know what anyone was talking about, so I got in my car and drove down the street, and to say the least, I was quite stunned by what I saw. I went to the net office and spoke to Shay, the net administrator, and she said that they had been told quite clearly that they were not in compliance, that they needed to get a COA. So they knew exactly what they needed to do and chose not to do it. And I have lived in the Upper East Side for 35 years. We worked the past 20 years extremely hard cleaning up the boulevard. There's been a gentrification going on for the past 20 years. It's very positive. There are a lot of restaurants. They have obeyed the laws, the rules, the compliance with the historic district. Morningside, Bayside, the Biscayne Corridor, and Palm Grove are all historic. We all have stringent rules because we have tried to improve this area, which we have done. It's taken a lot of hard work by a lot of community activists, and I am here at 12:15 at night because this is important. We want to make sure that the work we have done continues and that everyone respects the rules and the laws and is in compliance. I'm sure it's a wonderful restaurant, and we welcome them in the Upper East Side, but they have to follow the rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Ian Bachekov, Ackerman Law Office, 98 Southeast 7th Street. Here on behalf of the property owner, Balance Biscayne Properties LP. He was the owner of Balance. I'll try and be very brief because I know we're all tired. We've all been here since before 3 p.m. His restaurant was failing. He was in that building in the top picture. He was there for a long time and he did well, but ultimately he was failing and he had to sell his restaurant. He sold it to these guys. These guys had a vision, and about 3 months before they painted that mural, they went to the city because in their lease it stated that they had to get their government approvals to paint the building. They went to the city and they asked them, what do we need? And it was that permit that they ultimately got. They asked the city. They didn't tell the city what they were looking for. That's what they were told they needed. They were told wrong. Okay, great. And, you know, that's unfortunate. But the day they painted that mural, code enforcement came out and they showed them that permit. And you know what? They didn't get a violation that day. They said, okay, you have a permit. There's nothing we can do. They came back the next day after getting the complaints, after the mural was up there, because they needed this board's approval to get it. And what did they do? Right away, they started the process. They went to Mr. Adams.
Yes, they came in pretty quickly.
Yes, and so I think it's very important to set that timeline straight. They thought they were doing everything by the book. They are here now on a bare bones application. They got here as fast as they possibly could. my client, the property owner, got a violation as the property owner for this mural. And it's set to be heard Thursday, in 2 days. It hasn't even been heard yet. The compliance date isn't even there yet. We're here to hopefully get this into compliance before we have to get there, because it was always their goal to get into compliance. The other thing I want to mention that's very important is the staff report based on the application that was provided. And I'll be very brief here. I want to finish up quickly. We're all tired. It's very important to note the criteria that he says are inconsistent. Number one, that they did it without your approval. We're here now. We know we need your approval. We didn't want to do it without your approval. We didn't know at the time. They didn't know. They asked the city, and the city told them, and they got what the city told them they needed. Number two, and I might be paraphrasing this, but he said it doesn't match the color scheme. It's the colors, the color code, and I hear the word graffiti. This is anything but graffiti. This is a work of art by a prominent artist in Puerto Rico who's been recognized by the government. Dark colors are prohibited. That's part of the color palette that's put in there by right. This board has the power to approve any colors they want. You have the power to approve this. If you truly believe that this is a work of art, that this should be allowed. It has brought so much vibrancy to the community. It brought culture to this neighborhood. This restaurant has been packed every single day for lunch and for dinner since they've opened up. Maybe it's the mural, maybe not, but I'll tell you, the prior restaurant that was there, nobody was coming there anymore. It was failing, and this has done something for this neighborhood that the rest of the business owners, or at least the ones that were here today that I can speak that I just heard, have said that this has been good for their businesses, and it seems to be good for the neighborhood, not just culturally. It can't speak for the history. The building's not historic. It's not even contributing. It just is in the neighborhood, which is why we're here today. And lastly, I'll add that one of the criteria of the designation is how it impacts the tourism and brings people to the neighborhood, and that's one thing that it has definitely done. So thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Susanna Baker, and I live at 4514 Northeast 1st Avenue in Miami. I am an art curator, and I'm an award-winning art curator. I started the art experience in 2009. I was invited by Tony Goldman, and I have been since then daily doing art tours for VIP people that come in, the winter snowbirds. I have been living in Miami since 1989 in the Design District, which is now Design District. Back when I bought my home in 1993, it didn't have the same prominence. So I've seen the areas change and my surrounding neighbors change, including Mimo. I love Jimmy's Diner, and I'm always every single Sunday there. But that's the only thing that I have seen in the last 15, 20 years. I have been seeing this. Hector Colazo Hernandez is a prominent, absolutely prominent artist from Puerto Rico. These gentlemen paid this artist and flew him in $25,000. This is a work of art on this building. Red, white, and blue stripes looking at this art as you drive down this Mino district. It is not anymore, you're not looking anymore at these closed down businesses that once just were eyesores and still are. You're now looking at this building. It is attracting a whole new group of residents that are people coming into this neighborhood. I am the one of the preferred curators for Fisher Island, and I'm getting a lot of my ladies in Fisher Island saying, what is this red, white, and blue building in this area? Can we go there? To eat in this restaurant, the average bill is about $30 to $40 per person. It is a whole nother world. And I'm seeing, I just was speaking to Avra Jane from Vagabond because I am doing an area study for a new map that I'm going to be doing. And I spoke to her, and she's in India right now. Otherwise, she would have been here. She is not opposed to this. She thinks it's fabulous. She thinks it adds a buzz and a vibrancy to this neighborhood that's so much needed. So besides being a work of art from a very prominent artist, I ask you, this is a time for this neighborhood to really have this type of change. Otherwise, we're going right backwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, well, good morning. Elisa Cepeda, 531 Northeast 76th Street. I'm the Mimo Biscayne Association president this year. We are in agreement with Bayside's position and support our neighbor. We would like this mural to come down. It is not compliant with the Mimo guidelines that we all have adopted and live by in this area, businesses and residents alike. We have our own unique sense of place and hope that we can reach an end result with the applicant that complies with our guidelines and works for all involved. We would love to see a neon solution. We are not Wynwood, we are Mimo, and we have definitely come a long way. Thank you.
As a final review,
One more,
yes.
there's one more. Elvis Cruz, 631 Northeast 57th Street. I've been a historic preservationist for about 38 years. I assisted in the formation of 4 separate historic districts, including the Mimo district in 2005 and 2006. The historic guidelines are a good thing. They enhance the entire district, and they create a total that is greater than the sum of the parts. Historic preservation should be proactive rather than reactive. And in that vein, there is a complaint that all too often people find out what those guidelines are when they have violated them. It would be wonderful if every historic property in the city received a very simple booklet, pamphlet saying, here's what the rules are, so that you know them in advance. Having said that, this should comply with the guidelines. There was mention about how the Balance restaurant did not do well commercially. That really doesn't have anything to do with this issue. However, it may be because Balance had 200 seats and only 23 parking spaces. That's the situation here as well. It's caused a lot of problems for the neighborhood. The biggest problem they're having in the neighborhood has to do with loud music. If you guys want to turn down your music so it can't be heard more than 100 feet away, as in compliance with the noise ordinance, you would make a lot of people very happy in your immediate neighborhood. But let's talk about a positive solution. The historic preservation officer mentioned that instead of having the painted mural, have your artist create a neon sign that lights up at night. Very compatible with the 1950s Mimo architecture. It would be very artistic. It could be in the form of the Puerto Rican flag. It would still cause plenty of vibrancy and buzz, and it would be newsworthy, and it would be a tourist attraction, and it would be a win-win for everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Let me just ask, is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this item?
Thank you. So taking into consideration the last statements of the gentleman and lady, when it comes to music and all the disturbances, what we get are unfounded claims. Before January the 1st was our first day of operation, there's a claim on the city stating that a Saturday the music was too loud. It was too loud and there was no one there. So that claim was totally unfounded. We have plenty of officers of code compliance coming to the business and saying, we have been notified of a violation, we have to come here, and every time that they go, they found nothing. As of today, we haven't got one single fine from the city, whether for disturbance, for loud music, for nothing. There's only unfounded claims. Unfounded claims like this one over here, where Mrs. DeFries says that we are once again breaking the law in the middle of the night where everything happens, and they're giving a license to place a sign, and we're doing that. I invite every single member of this board to come by the restaurant today in order to see if there's a sign of La Placita placed there. There was only an operation to make a measurement. So when we get the permit, we get the installment. So this set of unfounded claims is what's happening on the reality. And that not only misuses the taxpayer funds of getting officers down there for an unfounded claim, it hurts the business, it hurts the people going there, because they think that something illegal is happening.
Sir.
Yes.
It's 12:30. We're here for the mural.
Yes,
Not for the noise and the Facebook posts and all that other stuff. Okay.
That's unfounded.
Yeah, that's fine. That's great. But that's not what I'm doing.
Like about the music. It's
I'm
the
not
same
here
thing.
for that.
Great.
Thanks.
So this is the neon. The neon is not a piece of art. The neon is a great inconvenience for the tenants of this building. Over here, people live. Imagine you living there and having a neon lighting up at night so it can reflect back into your operation. So now you're going to have not only a failing business, the owner of the building is going to have tenants moving out because of the neon. So we got to be commercially reasonable on this, and that's our statement, so everyone is on the same page. Thank you very much.
Public hearing was closed. You don't get another bite of
As the president of the Maimo Biscayne
No.
Association, I would just like to correct one thing, if that's okay with you. 2 minutes.
No. Public hearing was over. And now we've had the summation, and now we're opening it up to the board for questions or comments.
Would you please, sir? Sorry. I'd like to see the violation notice, your board with the with the permit, what you call it, a permit. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll,
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chair. Police Department, special events permit for La Placita. Location. Permit expired 12/27/18. For a permit date from 12/27/18 to 12/27/18. Time 1000 to 2300 hours. Purpose, applicant is authorized to conduct artistic painting of mural at the above listed location. Applicant is permitted to close the above listed location per attached. Comments, working hours, maintain City of Miami off-duty officers. So, special events permit issued by the police for a date December 27/18 through December 27/18 between 10 a.m. and 2300 hours to permit the artistic painting of a mural. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
In your in your summation, in your introduction, you explained a lot of things. You explained the history of Puerto Rico and those things. But I would like to help you understand something. I don't think, well, I'll not use the word think. The neighbors and the district's objection to the mural, I don't think it's against any cultural establishment or any prejudicial situation. So you had a map of 7 buildings around you. So what if I was to purchase one and I paint the Jamaican flag? Boom. Mr. Adams purchases the next building and paints the Scottish flag. Boom. What do you think that does to the quality of the appearances of the architecture of these buildings as you go along, if that precedent is set and then everyone jumps on that and follows? Your building might have this specialness that you feel that is attracting the people about when that multiplies. So that is what the district is about. It's not against you personally or against your culture personally. It's an aesthetic issue for a district. That's why they spend many years getting the residences and the business in that area into a district that was approved by this board. So look at it in that way. The suggestion of the neon, you made a point about the neon reflecting into the apartments. I think you should study that before you feel or claim that it will disturb the residents in the building. I think it's a good compromise. It doesn't shine in the day, which is what you really want, but I suggest you just keep working with staff to come up with some kind of solution, because the mural you have is very strong, it's very loud, and if it were to be repeated over and over along the district, it would really be not a good situation. So it's really about that. I'm not against you,
If I may then, thank you so much for that feedback. We're not here to present a pattern. We're not here to make a movement. I think that we're here to make that example that there's a loophole in the system. And that loophole should be closed through this process, granting us with the approval as an exception. Why?
Hold on. Yeah, explain to me why, because I don't know why. You're saying there's a loophole, so everyone could have gotten away with this.
Yes.
You're the example, and you want to be you want to set the example about how not to do this?
No, it's the example to prevent this from happening again.
But why?
Why? Because there's a disconnection between the process of the city, the board, and the special permit issued by the City of Miami and the Department of Police.
Hold on right there. I'll tell you what we tell everybody who doesn't go to the right department to get a permit. You don't go to the police to get a building permit. And then you want to talk to your landlord about where to go. No. I mean, that's what happens. I'm a building contractor. Everyone's been in town for a long time, so they know how things work.
If I may, we started off in the city, and the city, when it started to ask us questions about the project that we said that was going to be done in one day, then the city was the one saying, you should go to the special permit from the police department. So it's going to be only done in one day. So we started, and there's evidence plenty in the city where we started in other offices for building.
Sir.
I'm sorry if I may.
I'm asking you a question off what you said.
I am answering you that. I started.
Please let him finish.
Thank you. We started with a permit expediter. It was not ourselves going there and try to get a permit. We used a professional for that purpose, and we started off at the city. And the city started asking for insurance, started asking for the complete project scope. And once we were providing the information, the city was the one saying to us, oh, it's only a one-day thing? You should go through the special permit through the police department. And we were redirected there. And by being there, we complied with everything that they required. So we didn't force nothing. We did everything by the book. And it was the loophole, again, my point, where the police department should say, listen, these guys are trying to paint an artistic mural in the Mimo district. This should go through the HEP board. There is a loophole there at the special permit, the special events permit on the police department. And that's why we're trying to make the statement here and make the record straight that we were not violating this purposely. We tried to go through the board, or we tried to go to the city, so the city was the one at some point that said, hey, listen, we cannot grant you a permit. Why? Because you're painting an artistic mural. And this is an artistic, historical district. You should go through the HEP board first. That didn't happen. We got a signed permit from the City of Miami, from the police department. That's the loophole. So what we're trying to do is not a movement. What we're trying to do is not saying to everyone, you know what, you can paint your flag in your building. Nothing's going to happen. That is not what we're trying to intend here. What we're trying to intend here is that we already made this thinking that we're doing it right. We're here presenting to you directly the reasons why. So we're expecting to have an approval on this and closing that gap. So there's a better communication within the city when someone else tries to paint the Jamaican flag or the British flag. They will have to go through the process, and whatever the process is, they will have to be at this board presenting their application. Thank you.
For the record, I just want to clarify, and I don't want to interject myself into this, but seem to be making an argument of estoppel. I've never heard of the Miami Police Department issuing special event permits for works of art, for murals, for billboards. I don't really have any idea what happened here, but special event permit by the code is usually for an event of a nature such as a party, such as a street closure, such as a parade. Billboards are regulated by Chapter 62 of the City Code. They require a multiplicity of permits, and Balin's, for the record, knew to come to this board because they were before this board for various things with the restaurant. So I really, I'm not a witness here. I don't know what happened. All I know is that, the police department is not the appropriate jurisdictional authority to be issuing mural permits, billboard permits, or anything like that. They have no lawful ability to do so.
And we've had cases in Monument District trying to get after the fact mural painting on the front. Remember the cupcake shop with the stripes? No, it doesn't fit, so we gotta paint the whole thing white. It's just how it goes. And so, the fact it was done in one day, 2 days after Christmas, I guess the weather was good.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I would just like to say, I agree with Mr. Campbell very much that this is obviously a situation where it doesn't seem, from my point of view, that at least as this is before us now, that there's any necessarily thing against what you guys are standing for and the cool things that you're doing and the energy and the vibe that you're bringing, that you have brought, and all the thought and hard work that's gone into this. But obviously it does seem like a very slippery slope because you're just not permitted to be able to paint large parts of these buildings. It's not, doesn't appear to me to be allowable per the MIMO rules. And there have been other situations, in my take, this would be a question of whether it's art or a sign, and it falls somewhere in between those two things. But there was recently a situation where there was a painted sign, and there was a lot of discussion about that, and it was determined that maybe it would be possible to recreate portions of that sign with neon, which would work within the MIMO guidelines. And I know that you have the exhibit that we were all passed out here of this one. I think that's a super valuable comment that neon could affect the people in the residences. However, that could also be really cool if you could figure out a way to blend these two concepts and turn this into an ongoing thing. And if there was a way to study this in a manner that would allow you to fall within the guidelines of the MIMO district and still capture your vibe and spirit, then I think that ultimately that would be the number one thing for everybody involved. And so that's my feelings.
I have a question. Somebody mentioned a petition that was signed. No? Did I misunderstand that there was a petition?
Yes, this gentleman that we don't know personally, Guillermo Puig, started a petition on this website and got up to 92,000 signs over maintaining the mural because of all the great things that everyone has shared today. So I think that is part of a consideration. We didn't provoke that was generated directly from this individual, and I think that has some kind of weight when it turns into acceptance. The Biscayne Boulevard on our side, it's dying, and it's really difficult for business to make it there. Ask the blue collar in front, ask the neighbors that we have to the sides. Everything's falling apart.
It's also relevant because the city has made exceptions in the past. I know that for Little Havana, specifically Azúcar Ice Cream, their signage, which was not approved and was not done with the proper permits, they ended up approving it because of the petition and the overwhelming support that the signage got. And as somebody who has spent many years trying to preserve Little Havana, that signage has brought more tourism and vibrancy and business and traffic. So I am in favor of making exceptions when it's for the greater good. So I just wanted to say that it's relevant. There's precedent there that has been made in the past.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
I have one question. How was this neon proposal prepared? Was it prepared by you or by the MIMO?
No, prepared by anyone else, not ourselves.
Okay. The lady who just raised her hand, was this sent to you?
This was sent to us through the landlord.
Okay.
No, it has the Placita signage. No, what we received the first is the one that we have on our cardboard. It's a rendering featuring the neon, but again, not only the inconvenience of the light, there's an investment there to place that neon.
Okay, I'm just asking. Thank you. Was it sent to you? Was it sent to you, this image?
Yes,
And
through the landlord.
was not created by you. So
No.
So my point is, the energy that it took to create that image to send to you as an idea is a clear outreach by the Mimo Association to you without any hard feelings. Say, please try this instead of that. So I want you to take that into consideration. Next thing, my last comment is, if you were misled, well, our attorney has said that in the past, balance has come before our board, so your landlord actually knows about how we run things here. So if you're misled by either your landlord or the city department, you could return to the city and tell them the same thing you're telling us now, and say maybe you could waive the fees of the next application to get this through because you were misled by them and were not given the proper instructions. Okay?
Okay, we'll take that into consideration, but we got a consent from the landlord of when we presented the rendering of the painting, and he said, once you comply with all permits and regulations stated by the city, and that's what we did. So once we got that permit,
the landlord misled you because he knows.
But I think but the landlord was not the driver here.
On behalf of the landlord, I will advise that the landlord has no operating power over here, did not advise him about the permits, only told him what's in the lease, you need to get the permit. Didn't tell them what kind of permit or anything else, they're not involved in the operation.
That's unfortunate because your landlord is renting a building or the owner is operating a building in a district that has these rules, so the tenants should have been informed.
Hold on,
Okay.
Are they renting the entire building?
No, they're renting the restaurant space on the ground
But if
floor.
they're painting the entire building, that's more the landlord's deal.
The landlord gave them approval if they got the government approvals, and the landlord, just like them, relied on the
approvals,
city.
They got one, they got the street closure to do it, they didn't get the building
The
permit.
lease
or
states
here.
all necessary government approvals, and just like they did, relied on the city, that the city would lead them in the right direction, and again, we're here now.
If I may add, zoning was the one telling us, Carlos Garcia from zoning told us, listen guys, you shouldn't be here, you should go to the next. We were ping pong in the city, was nothing to do with the landlord, and that was our expediter.
I understand. And that's why I said you need to return to them and say, listen, we were misled by you. Can you waive the fees for our next application for the Mimo district? Try that.
I will take that into consideration, but I just want to make the record straight that the landlord didn't drive this. The city was the one.
But your landlord should have told you. That's my point. Anyway.
Moving right along.
Yes.
I would also mention, I was just advised by my client, the landlord, that it was actually his father who had done the permits, so he wasn't actually involved in the process at the time, but yes.
Moving right along.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Lewis.
we have spent the last 20 minutes having everybody give this, and I want to go back to something that my colleague just said about the Azúcar sign and the petitions. I might feel differently if I were to see petitions, see signatures, as opposed to hearing that there are 92 likes or 92,000 likes on Facebook, because one seems to me to be more probative and real than something, ephemeral. Mr. Adams, we amended not that recently, but gosh, I was the moving party, the Mimo sign regulations. We did those pretty recently.
Yes.
To what extent did we solicit owners, tenants, businesses, commercial owners, residents' input with regard to these signs?
Worked with the Mimo Association.
Yes.
That's
The regulations that we are, that are, the violation of which is being alleged?
The violation alleged is to do with more to do with paint schemes rather than signs. And the sections that I pointed out were the historic district design guidelines for all districts state artistic murals or patterns are not allowed and require HEP approval.
Okay, would you stop right there?
Yeah.
Just for a moment. To what extent, when those were proposed, was input from commercial property owners, commercial tenants solicited?
These are in the historic district design guidelines.
This is citywide?
Yes, not the MIMO ones. So that was the first thing. And then it goes on to say exterior paint colours should highlight the architectural features of a structure. A successful paint scheme enhances the look of a structure. However, when inappropriate colours are applied, it can be detrimental to the architecture. When we actually go to the MIMO, the design guidelines also state dark colours and bright hues are not allowed on structures.
Right.
When we go to the MIMO Biscayne Boulevard Historic District Design Guidelines, that's the guidelines that actually includes a selection of 44 suggested colour palettes for MIMO buildings. And obviously this paint scheme is not one of the colour palettes.
I understand, but my same question, to what extent, when we were considering in December of 2018, did we solicit input from the commercial property owners and commercial tenants and from the residents with regard to these sign limitations in mind?
Toronto Historic Preservation Planner. The draft that we worked with was a draft that had originally been proposed and created right before current staff began. And we were told that they had already been vetted through with the MIMO Association, and we're not sure who else, as we weren't involved in that process and we can't speak to that.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
So I hear your plight. The comments about vacant stores, the comments about how Little Havana was invigorated by the Azucar sign, resonate a little to me, a little. I'm wondering whether it would be possible, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Adams, to suspend any kind of penalties against this property and to allow a reasonable period, I don't know, 6 months, within which to test whether a majority of the affected persons, and that's the commercial properties and it's the residents, and they may never be able to agree with each other, I don't know, but whether these sign restrictions might be too stringent. So, in other words, let these people keep their sign, not legalize it, still a violation, not impose, just suspend penalties, and allow staff, adding more work to staff, to determine, to poll, a little bit like we did, remember what we did with Morningside and South Morningside? You poll. I mean, you all say you got 96,000 hits on somebody's Facebook page? Prove it. Prove it. Does that make any sense?
Number one, if they're in violation, I don't know how much sway we would have over the code department if they're in violation.
Right.
Number two, I would be worried about setting a precedent. Are we suddenly going to encourage other people to do a similar thing and see if they can get support from the community? I mean, my recommendation, or our recommendation, has to go by Chapter 23 in the guidelines. And as I pointed out in the report, the guidelines are quite clear. Although it does say artistic murals or patterns are not allowed and require HEP approval. To be honest, I found that a bit confusing. It says artistic murals or patterns are not allowed and require HEP approval. To me, it should read artistic murals or patterns require HEP approval. I don't think it should say that, but you know, the question is it appropriate for the historic district, and is it appropriate for the architecture of the building? And everything that we have to go by as staff, which is why staff can't approve it, says no, it's not appropriate.
If there's another one, then we're really in a jam. If we got one flag, another flag, then we gotta decide which one's good and which one's not. I mean, I think it's a bad precedent because it just, it's just not part of the rules. That's it.
Warren, can I ask a question? So, if this was interpreted, I know this would take some research, but theoretically, if this was interpreted as a sign, how much of it could theoretically be allowable if it met the sign guidelines per the MIMO district? Like, in other words, with the Panther Coffee, and we looked at that and there was certain portions of the sign that were painted. And then it was determined that there would be a period of time that would allow the applicant to study how to best fall within what would be allowable under the guidelines. I remember that's how we ended up, that was the motion with that. In theory, I mean, this is a restaurant on the ground floor. I guess the whole ground floor is commercial or retail with residential above. Off the top of your head, any size requirements that this would have to be, or location within the property where this would have to fall to be considered a sign versus a mural or a painted building? I'm looking for possibilities to find a solution that's something to go on versus...
I mean, that would ultimately come under Miami 21.
Okay.
With regard to the size. What we have to go by is Chapter 23 in the design guidelines. That's what we have to go by.
Right, but just...
Plus painted signs are not allowed in MIMO.
I understand that. But, I mean, there's a huge home goods sign or something like that that's not far from here, which takes up almost the entire front portion of a storefront. I'm just saying, just anecdotally, what would you assume is the percentage of the front of that might be able to be a sign?
That would be then zoning Miami 21 with regard to the size of signs, not us.
Just as a technical point, the city has to follow the city sign code. The Miami-Dade County sign code also applies in municipalities. That's why murals are only allowed in certain parts of the city, because the county has permitted it, and both codes apply. And my point in making the point I made to you about the police was just that if the board was inclined to give any kind of relief on this, it should be very fact specific, because of whatever, though I do not think, in my personal opinion, that it's an estoppel, because of whatever bugaboo occurred here. The police, sold them a public building or signed $1 billion contract or whatever it was that they issued that permit. That was my point in making it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to make a motion. I would like to move the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness, for the painting of a mural on property at 6789 Biscayne Boulevard, because it would be an artistic mural or pattern that is required by the HEP board, on the condition that the colors of that artistic mural meet follow the color palette for MIMO. What does that mean? It means the mural, if this board agrees, it means the mural with a flag motif, could stay, but it would have to be painted, repainted, have to be painted in the colors that are established and approved for the MIMO district. So it couldn't be dark blue and red because our regulations say dark colors and bright hues are not allowed. That's my motion.
There's also a mural on the rear of the building as well. It's a much smaller one. It's visible from the right of way.
What facade? Sorry, what facade is it on?
It's on the rear of the building.
Define rear in terms of compass point.
The east side.
And
Right of way.
what right of way?
The right of way is 68, 67.
So you're going
66 or 67 Street?
It blocks the garbage dumpsters, it faces their parking lot and their private property, but the way that the driveway is configured into the garage, or into the parking lot, it's here, and you drive into the parking lot this way, and the parking lot is
Okay,
here.
let me clarify my motion. My motion is to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the 2 existing murals. Because they are artistic murals, which can be authorized by the head board, provided all dark colors and bright hues are changed, and further provided that the color palette, approved color palette from MIMO is followed for both murals, because both are visible from the right of way.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
No.
There is no second. Then is there another motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the special certificate of appropriateness for painting of murals on a non-contributing property located at approximately 6789 Biscayne Boulevard within MIMO, Miami Modern Biscayne Boulevard District, Historic District, be denied.
Okay, is there a
Second.
Okay, there's a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? No discussion? We have a roll call. This is a motion to deny.
Roll call, Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Colley, Ms. Galvez Turros, Ms. Odell,
Yes.
Mr. Prieto Munoz,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
and Chair Hopper.
No.
Motion passes 5-3. This decision is final unless appealed in the hearing board's division within 15 days.